Good evening, everyone. I am the Mad Computer Scientist. On this channel, I like to discuss math, computer science, and technology topics that are of interest to me. Normally on Fridays, I like to take a little break from that, but honestly, with all the things that have gone on since January 20th, I think we can all use a break from anything that's just two people being mean to each other. And, well, I thought we would do Mr. Howard a little favor and try to write his terryology calculator for him. Now, for those of you who saw his Joe Rogan appearance, and you should go watch at least the first hour of it, to get the section where he's just being really, let's say, revolutionary with his mathematics, he said that the Anunaki Sky people gave us bad math, and he also said that the calculator shows he was correct. Of course, if you watch it carefully, what you see is he doesn't understand some of the core settings of his cell phone, and that he doesn't understand the laws of exponents. And if you actually read his book, which you can find at tcotlc.com, you can also read a story where he got into an argument with his second grade math teacher about what the square root of 2 equaled. Now, I've gone over this before, I've gone over it ad nauseum, and there's no need for me to repeat it. So now let's just get into the Python code. And I know some of you will be disappointed that this isn't what you were hoping to see tonight, but I just wanted to take a break. So we're going to share the screen in a second here. I think that's what I need to do. Yep. That's not really showing up very well. Let's try to change our background a bit and see if that helps us. Because apparently the dark mode doesn't show up very well. Does the white mode help better? Let's try it. Yes, it does. All right, give me a second and I will check to make sure we are running on YouTube. Also, let me make sure my banner is spelled correctly. So while I am getting there to make sure everything's up and running, I would like to remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe. If you find this content useful, please share this video out. And please, if you're a Terrence Howard supporter, it's fine if you like his movies, but he does not know math very well. Also, if you're going to tell me that machine learning is not a subset of AI, and that it isn't AI because subsets are not part of the original set, I'm going to invite you to learn set theory a little bit better. All right, give me a second here while we check the video to make sure it is running the way I want it to be. Okay, good. It seems like we have sound. So let's start on our code. Now, I've brought up the Python IDE that comes most commonly when you download Python, especially for Windows, known as Idle, which is named after Monty Python member Eric Idle. Now, honestly, I do wish that Python had a debugger named Cleese, but Cleese has said some things that aren't really great in the past few years, but let's go over what I've done so far. So, actually, there are some things I'm going to want to do. I might want to import math on this one. And that just gives us access to functions in the math library. So we're going to read our comments here. And the first bit is just the type of what we're doing, who made the program the day it was created, and let's see what I have to say. Because the Anunaki Sky people gave us bad math, and our calculators malfunction, according to Mr. Howard, it is now up to brave computer scientists, computer engineers, and snarky YouTubers to correct the situation and lead humanity to a brighter future based on the stunning math, that should be new math, let's correct that, revealed by famed mathematician Terrence Howard in the prestigious mathematics journal known as View. Howard has also appeared on such notable podcasts as Joe Rogan. And he frequently works with known archaeologist Billy Carson. All right, because it's Python, we actually are encouraged to quote Monty Python in these. So let's just go with the Holy Grail and quote some logic just as sound as Mr. Howard's. So logically, if she weighs as much as a duck, she's made of wood, and therefore all right, if you know where that's from, you know what the next line is, and honestly, we should probably get into our code. So let's think a little bit how we want to write this. I think we're going to have 6 basic functions. We can do it as a class, or we can do it as something else. I think we're going to start as a class. To declare a class in Python, we use the keyword class, oddly enough, all in lowercase. And to declare a class name in Python, you use what is known as Pascal case, where every letter of the word is capitalized. And of course, if we want to create an object in Python, we have to use the init method. So operand or operand. I can't remember the terminology. Is it operand or operator? Yeah, it's operand for oh, I'm doing this incorrectly. I think it's self.operand. And we're just going to do this as simply as possible. Because I don't think we're going to need more of this for this calculator. And now we're going to define some methods. So addition works normally in Terrence Howard's math, so we can just do that. Subtraction does as well. And there should be some space here just for human readability. Doesn't have to be there. The Python does not care about that type of white space. And these are going to take a fairly familiar format if you know basic math. All right, so we need to do division, which apparently remains the same, even though I think if you're multiplying by 1, it would change division. So if you divide by 1, it subtracts it by 1. But Mr. Howard has not been consistent in this at all. Now we have to do a little bit something differently with division. Or, sorry, we have to do something a little bit different with multiplication. So you have to do two things. So first we're going to check if operand 1 equals 1 or operand 2 equals 1. And once we know that it includes a 1, we're just going to call the add function. And we're going to return that. And of course, if we don't have that, we just return the normal multiplication. How are you tonight, great card work? Now, Terrence Howard has also defined something known as a loop. I think I can get away with, all right, I need to do a bit more here to make these work properly, because I need to make sure I'm passing the variables in. For the loop, we just need the number. And we want to check to see if the number is greater than 0. And we are actually going to create an infinite loop. So we're going to start with a Boolean variable to define things. And while we're going to use, actually I think in Python we have to do it that way. We have to use the not keyword. We're going to use print. So I think it's math.square root number and we're going to divide that by number. That should be the correct order of operations. And then we're going to increment number by 1 by using the plus equals, which is typing the same thing as this, for those who do not know Python. What I did there is just a shortcut to save me some space. All right. So, if you know anything about the laws of exponents, you know that that loop should run forever for any input given to it where the number is greater than 0. We also want to do something else if the number is 0 or less than. And because we're dealing with Terrence Howard and his supremely intelligent logic, we know that 0 does not exist, nor does any negative number. I think that's what he said, but he has been unclear on this, to say the least. So far what I've written does not actually do anything. So next, we're going to actually do something that isn't strictly necessary, but we're going to define a main function. And then if we define a main function like this in Python, we need to make sure we call it. And that's the case for any language where it does not have a required main function that will be called when the program runs. So this will not compile unless I put something in here. So let's do a couple things here. We'll just let the user know that they've come into this. We can actually do things to give it some command line options. But we are not going to do that. And honestly, whether you use single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter here. And we're going to do a simple menu. I mean, honestly, I could do a more formal calculator, but I think they're going to be limited interest in this to begin with. And this is going to be menu driven. We're going to give the user 5 choices. Which are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Good morning, Eric, or good morning. It's evening where I am, but the beauty of the internet is that it could be any time of day where the users are. So the 4 of the choices are going to be add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And finally, we want to give a 5th choice because we want to show everyone who's a Terrence Howard fan that the Howard loop works for all positive numbers. Actually, I really would like that number that, okay, I can see an issue there, but I'd really like this to be as inefficient as possible. Now, the way to do that normally is to call the function again. Yes, I am actually going to write something that will crash it. But to be fair, I think we have to do it this way. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Aries. We don't even know if it's going to work first. All right. Let's actually run it to see how our code is going to run and what errors I need to fix before we get too far. There will be some errors, and I will show those in a second. I also would like to save this on my own drive, Microsoft, not the OneDrive. My drive on this computer that I own. Oh, that is actually a problem. We'll fix that. But I doubt that's going to be the only thing we need to fix. I just forgot a colon at the end of the class definition. Okay, that is working. Now, one of the things I'm going to need to do to use any of my code is make sure I actually define the calculator class. So we're going to call it calc to create an instance of it, and that should be what we need. Calculator has no attribute operand 1. Oh, all right. I think it's supposed to be like this. Let's try this. Well, we can only hope. We do know those. All right. Let's hope this works. All right. So, did we get an error there? Let's go back and check. Also, let me show the screen to you because this is actually a different one. Give me a second and we will get the screen up. All right, the screen's over here. This is what we have so far. We've written the menu. It looks relatively nice for a menu-driven program, but what we need to do is get some input from the user to do this. So we're going to test each of these individually. And the first thing we're going to do is we actually want to check to see what the user wants to do. So we need to actually share the different screen now and go back to our coding screen. Would be nice if I could share more than one screen at a time, but that's just a limitation of StreamYards, and I'm not going to fix that. So here we are back to our code. So we're going to start with a Boolean variable we're going to call valid input. Boolean variables either have a value of true or false, and typically we use the for to control our program flow, and we use them for flags. So the next thing I'm going to do is while valid input James, I actually did send you an email. I don't know if you got it. And I do have to finish watching that Terrence Howard video. So we're going to declare a variable we call choice. All right, we're going to typecast it to int. That just means for the next command we use, is called input. By default, it chooses strings. And I need a double thing there. And I also want to do some exception handling, just in case we get an invalid choice. All right, we want accept value error. Yeah, I know. I have been busy myself too. All right, so now that we have gotten our choices, we actually want to do one more thing, and we want to do something I'm just doing a little bit different, something a little bit different tonight. So we also want to check to see if we need to want to exit the loop. So the next thing we're going to do is say if choice equals negative, and that should be double equals for comparison, negative 999. Valid input equals false, and that should exit the loop. All right, so now it would be nice if Python had a switch statement like some other languages do, but it is not. So we're just going to have to use multiple if statements. If And we're going to go through all the possible choices. I think we'll have 2 more functions for these just to get the input, because I want to keep writing code over again. And a lot of times, especially if you're just writing code off the fly, you will find some things that are more efficient to do later. But honestly, since I think the interest in this is going to be very low, yeah, we can do it this way. Because I'm drawing a blank on how to pass variables to this. And we'll just assume the user is going to put the right thing here. Then we'll do some copy pasta to get the everything except loop, which is going to be a little different. We need to actually call the method we want to use. And we want to print it out. And we're going to use what's known as an F string just to save us some more typing. And I need to do the F string correctly. And if you're wondering why I want to put semicolons at the end of everything, it's because almost every other language I deal with requires semicolons at the end. Python does not. In JavaScript, it's become optional. All right, so let's just copy this here. And remember, in Python, indentation matters. Thank you, James. And we're going to have to fix that indentation. And choice 2 was subtract. So we'll change that to subtract. Choice 3, I believe, was multiply. And remember, this is the one that has to be different. Don't ask me why division isn't different, though. Because he is not consistent with any of this. I believe the 4th choice is divide. Let me make sure I'm naming these right. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's just, okay, it's division. I might want to change that name just to be consistent. We'll go back up and change it in our object we have up here. Change that to divide. And finally, for loop, we only need 1 choice. And that should have 2 parentheses at the end. And, all right. So, assuming I've got everything correct, we now have the makings of the Terryology calculator, and I will put this on my GitHub, which I will put the link in the description. And hopefully this will revolutionize mathematics for everyone, because Terrence Howard says it will. Now, for those of you wondering why I didn't do a GUI, well, I don't really think there's that much of a demand for a Terryology calculator, but we will find out. All right, so let's see if our ad works. Something is wrong here. Invalid literal int. All right. Hold on, I think I see what I did. And this was on my end. I should have prompted the user, so I So they knew what I was doing? Yeah, that's it. Do I think Terrence Howard will be okay with the command line? Well, I personally don't think Terrence Howard is stupid. However, I don't think he's a math genius. So we're just, and I need to put quotes there, and on that there, otherwise I'll get an error. And why are those two parentheses and not quotes? There we go. I am doing that quite a bit. I really should put all these in a function, but oh, that's why I have them like that. They have to have those. All right, we'll go back and fix the ones I've just broken. I mean, honestly, if I'm wrong, it does turn out that people are interested in this. I will produce a GUI version of it. Maybe even a JavaScript website. All right, so let's see if this runs now. Well, it ran before, I just wasn't doing the right thing. All right, so we're going to do add 5, 5. All right, we got the right thing. Subtract. And this is consistent in my end. We go back to the original program and correct that. And now that we've corrected it, we should be able to run it. And let's see if that's the case. This is the debugging phase, which is one of the most painful parts of any programming process. So we know add works. Looks like subtract works. Let's try multiply. And for this one, we have 2. So anything that isn't a multiple of 1, or sorry, that was the wrong thing to say. If we're not multiplying by 1, it should work correctly. So let's try multiplication again. And of course, we have now done the biggest thing teriology did for math. But let's see if we can do his most famous thing. Yes, and we all know 1 times 1 equals 2, according to Mr. Howard. So, and let's check our division. And that's actually an error on my part because I did the wrong thing. I typed the wrong thing, should have known better. I mean, honestly, I did not have to do this as an object-oriented program. And it looks like there's an error here and also here. So since these are parts of the object, I just need to put self in front of it so it refers to the object. All right, so let us see if that corrected that issue. We were on division, I believe. All right, let me check that again to see what is going on there. Did I do something wrong with this? What did I do with the other ones? Oh, it doesn't have to be self. And the ones declared here are indeed none type. So let's check divide again. All right, that is correct. Now, there's one more thing we should do because Mr. Howard does not seem to believe in negative numbers. So if it returns a negative number, we just say that the answer doesn't make sense. Which we're going to do in the loop. No. All right, well, honestly, this calculator won't be perfect yet. I would have to refine it a little bit to do that. So I would just like to remind you that if you're enjoying this video, if you haven't done so already, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's see, can we modify this so it actually does put, yes, we can a little bit. So we're just going to do calc.add here, operand 1, operand 2. And we're going to say if it is less than 0, and then if it is more than 0, it can print out correctly. And we should also do that for subtraction and multiplication and division. All right, so I probably didn't copy and paste that correctly, so let's get that in there. And really, I should rewrite all of these to be one function. They'll save me some code later. All right, so choice 2 should be subtract, I believe. Choice 3 will be multiplied. We'll go take care of that now. I think if I start over here, the indentation should be correct. And the thing we haven't tested yet is the loop. That's the thing I'm most excited about. Let's bring the indentation over here to be correct. All right. Let's try this now. All right, so we've done that correctly. Now, let's try number 5. This is the one I'm most excited about. If I've done this correctly, it should crash Python. However, something is wrong in what I wrote. So let's see what I did. Oh. Okay, that's what I did. All right, we're going to say, and yes, I'm deliberately using imaginary here because I don't think Mr. Howard would know what it means. Else calc.loop number. All right, that should work. Let's try it again. And it was just, I meant to put that in quotes, not just refer to a variable that hadn't been defined yet. All right, so that one's working. But not quite. So something's not quite right. Let me take a look at the loop. All right, let's go back, because loop should run infinitely. Takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. I'm pretty sure only 1 was given. That doesn't make any. All right, maybe the other one. There we go. I think that'll be right. Let's try that again. However, in order for that to work the way I wanted to, we need to do something more. We need to do this. So if result equals number, which it should, but it might not due to floating point errors. That doesn't make sense. Math is broken. All right, and we'll do an F string again, and we'll see if my code works. Well, to be fair, I will open source this so people can make decisions later. So let's try this again. Well, we'll try 2. All right, so it's not going to work quite the way I want it to. All right, so it actually did do what I wanted to do, where it crashed because we're using recursive functions too many times, which is what it should have done. But, all right, I see what I did here. So I need to change it a bit more. And that's because this should be math.square root number. And if this will work the way I want it to, we should get that message quite a bit more. But I'm guessing it's just not doing it due to floating point errors. So we may be able to fudge this a little bit. Using the floor function or the ceiling function, if I can find where I put it. But it's probably not going to work exactly the way I want it to, just because computers aren't really good with floating point variables. But let's see if we can get our computer to react. So we do the loop again. Right, it's not doing that, but why? What am I missing? Let's go back to our code and let's take a look. If math.floor result equals no, that should be correct. Well, I'm just going to assume it's a floating point error. But the good news is we actually did get the recursion error that we wanted. There are ways I could get around that if I wanted to. But I don't think it's really a good idea to have Howard's calculator fully working. All right, as I said, I'm going to post this on my GitHub. I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight because this was just a lighthearted thing. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you find this video useful, please share it out. And of course, we're 3 away from 300 subscribers. I would like to get there. It's not going to be anything special. And when I get maybe up to 400, I might set up something like a coffee for people who enjoy this content who may want to donate. And I may not. With that being said, I hope you all have a good night. Now go out and write some code. And go look on my GitHub, which will be in the link below, if you want to improve upon this project in any way.